The Interstellar you watched was a carefully crafted lie. A sanitized version of a much darker reality. Today, we unearth the truth that Christopher Nolan tried to bury. Murph Cooper did not solve the equation that saved humanity. The equation solved her. And by the time this video ends, you will never watch that film the same way again. The lie of the original story. Consider what Christopher Nolan shows you first. A dying world, a grieving father, a mysterious ghost. Everything is warm, everything aches with love. Nolan wraps the infrastructure of a heist in the aesthetics of a lullaby. But look at that dust. That is not a haunting, that is a blueprint. The chilling reality is this: those anomalies were not left by a benevolent intelligence. They were left specifically for her room. Not a government building, not a laboratory. A child's bedroom. Think about the implications of that. The coordinates did not lead to NASA. They led to Coop, through his daughter. Murph was the target from the first grain of dust. And someone already knew that. Professor John Brand, the architect of the greatest deception in cinematic history. He stands in front of equations that have no solution. He is known for years. Plan A, saving Earth's population, is mathematically impossible. Impossible without data from inside a black hole, data that does not yet exist. And yet, he recruits a father. He uses the language of legacy, of sacrifice, of the stars. He mentions Murph by name. He tells Coop his daughter can help solve the equation. He does not tell Coop the equation is already a lie. This is the predatory mechanism at the heart of the film. Brand does not recruit Coop to save the world. He recruits Coop to save the embryos, while making sure Coop believes his children's world can still be rescued. A father's love, weaponized, used as a propulsion system for a mission built on a lie. But Brand's deception is only the first layer, because the weapon he placed in that child's hands was not a gift. It was the most volatile instrument in the history of human survival, and she carried it for 40 years, never knowing what it was for. The clues Nolan embedded and hoped you would miss. The farewell scene. Nolan shoots this in fragments, close-ups of hands, rain, distance. This editing rhythm is not accidental. Murph throws it back. One frame. Nolan does not linger. The camera chooses the father's grief over the daughter's fury. That is the first suppressed truth. But examine the object itself. A watch runs on a coiled spring, slowly releasing tension. Nolan has placed a ticking, coiled mechanism into the hands of a child he is about to spend the film winding up. The existential threat here is not cosmic, it is intimate. The chilling reality, the watch only works as a transmission device because Murph never healed. The system required her to stay broken. Now, Miller's Planet. Nolan films this as spectacle, and it is spectacular. Doyle's death is swift, almost a footnote. Listen to that score. Those waves do not crash, they tick. 1 hour on Miller's Planet, 23 years on Earth, 23 years of Murph's life. Consumed in an afternoon. The mission designed around needing Murph to grow into a scientist deliberately burned her childhood as fuel and called it an unavoidable tragedy. Then the messages. Tom growing, Murph growing, aging, living. Nolan makes you feel this as grief. But notice what stops. Murph's messages. She stops sending. Nolan notes this briefly, then moves on. A daughter's deliberate severing from her father, depicted as a gap. Not a wound, a gap. The camera will not stay here, because there is a more convenient villain waiting. Dr. Mann, introduced weeping. Matt Damon, an actor the audience trusts. Nolan uses that trust as misdirection. Watch the blocking. Man is always fractionally elevated in frame. The camera's spatial grammar tells you who holds power, before a word of betrayal has been spoken. But strip the villain framing from Man's argument. He argues that a living person has more value than a mission. He argues that self-preservation is not weakness, it is biological imperative. The film needs Man to be wrong, so that Coop's willingness to sacrifice himself can be heroic. And now, we reach the black hole, the most beautiful mouth in cinema. Look at the composition. Nolan does not frame this as flying past the black hole. He frames it as falling into it, because the trajectory was always inward. The sacrifice was always scheduled. The moment the truth could no longer be contained. Every panel is Murph's bedroom, not a neutral space, not a void, a child's bedroom, the most private space in any human life. And Nolan fills it with wonder. He screams for her, he weeps. The official narrative says, this is love. What Coop inhabits is a surveillance architecture, built inside a little girl's most private hours. Every time she cried, every time she spoke to the silence, every night she kept the watch wound, her father could have been watching. Not because he chose to intrude, but because the predatory infrastructure of the tesseract made her privacy structurally impossible. The love story is real. The surveillance is also real. Now, the mechanism. He transmits the quantum data. She watches, she decodes, she understands what she has received. And here is where the conspiracy reaches its apex. The data she receives was never discovered. It was delivered. Coop transmitted it, because TARS gathered it, because Coop fell into the black hole, because Murph solved it. Imagine a woman who spends her life believing she made a breakthrough, when in biological reality, she was the final component of her own origin story. Her genius is real, her discovery is not. What looks like a breakthrough is the completion of a program. She did not solve the equation. She completed the equation that was always solving her. Humanity is saved. The world that Murph's suffering built is pristine, and Coop arrives as a ghost in his own future. She waited. He did not. And now, the final extraction begins. She releases him. She tells him to find Amelia. She performs forgiveness in front of an audience. Examine what is being asked of Murph in this scene. She is dying. The father who left when she was 10 years old, who she begged not to go, who she threw a watch at in fury, is standing in her hospital room, and the narrative requires her, in her final hours, to comfort him. The system extracts from Murph, at the very end, the one thing she had left to give, her forgiveness, and packages it as her final act of greatness. The existential takeaway, what the suppressed truth reveals about the world. The film's last image, a new world, a species continuing. Nolan gives you a golden ending, and he places the embryos in the frame, the ancient protocol of Plan B, finally activated on a dead man's planet. She is surrounded by the beginning of a civilization. She lost everything personal that brought her here. The mechanism is still operating. Everything that happened to Murph, every year burned, every grief exploited, every moment surveilled, produced this. And the film calls it a good ending. It is a good ending, for humanity as a species. Think about the implications of that distinction. There is a predatory conspiracy at the heart of every system that produces greatness. It begins with something that looks like love, in a space too intimate to seem institutional. And it relies on one biological truth. The most exploitable people in any system are the ones exceptional enough to be worth the cost. Here is the existential threat that the film suppresses behind its score. Every mechanism of mass salvation in history has run this program. One man, one calculation, made in private. Deciding that a person's potential is worth more than their freedom. Brand never asked Murph. The future humans who built the tesseract never asked Murph. Coop never asked Murph. Everyone who loved her, used her. And the most volatile truth of this entire film is that none of them were wrong. The plan worked. Humanity survived. The equation was solved. The new world was found. And Murph was genuinely extraordinary. Every part of this is true. And that is the chilling reality that Christopher Nolan buried under an organ score and a father's tears. Greatness and exploitation are not opposites. They are the same transaction, seen from different sides of the equation. She is 8 years old. The equation has already begun solving her. Every system sophisticated enough to produce a hero is sophisticated enough to manufacture the conditions that made that hero necessary. Murph Cooper did not transcend her exploitation. She fulfilled it, with such extraordinary grace that the universe called it destiny, and the audience called it love. If this truth shocked you, if you watched Interstellar and felt the love, and now cannot stop seeing the mechanism beneath it, smash like and subscribe for the next dark story from the Pulse. Sandra Pulse Cinema. We watch what they showed you. We read what they buried.